What's up, gamers? Dreamcastguy here, talking today about the Sony leaks because it seems like this very big dumpster fire may finally be over, at least according to Sony themselves. I'm not entirely convinced. Now, I want to read you today what's going on with these Last of Us leaks, what they're claiming is true, and what I believe is actually going on. Now, in case you've been sleeping under a rock, the basic thing you need to know is that somebody last Sunday, so 6 days ago, there was a random post where somebody just uploaded 2 hours of raw gameplay of The Last of Us Part 2. This included multiplayer, single player, it included a lot of giant spoilers, and had a bunch of stuff that made people say, how is this possible? Now, the main reason that people were very confused by this is, without revealing too much about the footage, it was very clearly from a game developer. There was actually code and stuff on the screen that sort of revealed the fact that this was not the finalized version of the game. It was definitely a leak, that somebody was posting the unfinished version of the game because they purposely wanted it to be seen and possibly be spread. Now, as soon as this popped up, there was obviously a lot of speculation, rumors, and even weird Reddit posts, like one I analyzed, basically saying that this was done by a disgruntled ex-coworker. Well, now Sony is claiming that they've tracked the person down, and it wasn't. So this is over on gamesindustry.biz. This is where they made their official statement. Scroll down here to the bottom. Update, May 1st. Sony has confirmed to gamesindustry.biz that it has identified the primary individuals, so apparently this was a group of leakers, responsible for the leaks earlier this week, saying that we're not affiliated with Sony Interactive Entertainment or Naughty Dog as was rumored. The publisher has declined to comment further, saying that the information was currently the subject of an ongoing investigation. Now, this is some very careful wording. The fact that they said they are not affiliated with Sony or Naughty Dog. Now, the reason this is important is because I think that this all comes down to 3 giant possibilities. I've really been thinking about this a lot, and I think it comes down to 3 main things that I want to break down. The first part is the fact that they're trying to use a clever word trick. A lot of companies, they're very careful with who is considered actually part of the business. Like if you're a contractor, something a lot of times is they'll hire outside talent to do like translation work, which some of the footage was not in English. This could have been leaked by a translator. A lot of times they'll bring in like outside concept artists and stuff. And so even though you have access to the game, you're not technically an employee of Naughty Dog. I think that this is very likely, it could still be possible that this was leaked by an angry person who is working with Naughty Dog, but they're trying to phrase it in a way where it just seems like some internet random dude. Now, the reason I kind of believe that this may be the case is because the person who leaked the footage, they very clearly had been playing the game for a while. I mean, I still don't want to say too much about it, but the person playing it was good. I mean, they were doing stealth kills, they were able to dodge guards. It was a person who clearly already played 20 or 40 hours of the game already. It's very difficult for me to imagine that this is just some random person who just stumbled upon it and went, wowzers, what a cool game. This was definitely somebody who is, at least, I'll use the word, they're very experienced with The Last of Us Part 2. Whoever was dealing with this stuff, they're an employee. I mean, I'll still say that, despite the fact that Sony's trying to just act like, oops, this was a huge random accident from hackers or whatever, I do believe that this was an employee in some capacity. And that leads me into theory 2, and this is one that's been going around a lot. I feel like this is definitely the most backed by evidence, and it's this. So here's somebody who said, basically, the way that it got out, it wasn't by maliciousness, it wasn't someone trying to screw over Naughty Dog, it's just the fact that apparently the studio has absolutely garbage security. So here it is, this is the post that I've seen being linked around. Basically, each and every Naughty Dog game that gets patch updates a key from a server after it gets patched, and that server gives you and millions of other people keys to look at that server. The server did not have any authentication whatsoever whatsoever. As far as I was told, once they give you that key, you have gotten it literally just opens the doors. Where do you think they got that copy of the leak from? If the original poster wants to mark this thread because this is the legitimate way that it was taken from Naughty Dog, blame them for storing information in such an unsecure spot. I also want to point out that I had literally nothing to do with the leak. I was just told how it happened. Now, if this is true, I have to just laugh. I don't mean to just, kind of chuckle at somebody else's misfortune, but imagine if Sony ends up losing out on millions of sales, making this go from one of the highest selling games of the year to maybe just a mid-tier one because of these leaks, and it's all because they had such lazy server access. This one sounds very realistic. It's kind of crazy to think that this wasn't because of evil intent or unpaid workers. It's pretty funny to imagine that it's just because nobody ever decided to update how you get into the servers themselves. Now, I have heard stuff like this before. There was actually a version of Halo 3, I think. Halo 2 and 3 ended up leaking, and apparently this is sort of the way it happened, where there was just a backdoor access at Microsoft. People were basically able to just walk in, pick up all the code online, and just upload it to their consoles. That may be how this is. The main thing that makes me not believe this still is just the fact that the person playing the game was so good at it. It's hard for me to imagine that this wasn't an experienced coder or tester who had been playing the game for years at this point. It's difficult for me to stretch my imagination that this is just a random person who happened to do it. And this brings me to Theory 3, and one that I've seen being spread around a lot, which is it was somebody who just had a physical access to the build itself. Almost everybody at Naughty Dog right now is working from home. This is well known. There are people who are having to clock in, clock out. They're doing all their work 80 hours a week from their home office. But just because you have a home office doesn't mean it's necessarily secure, right? Just because you work from home doesn't mean you have a bunch of passwords on your computers. It doesn't mean you properly log out of all your databases and stuff. One of the possibilities I've seen is, what if you're like a 45-year-old guy, you've been working at Naughty Dog for years and years and years, and your son walks into your room one day and decides to upload that to YouTube for some easy views? That's possible. It's crazy. It's goofy to think about giant company secrets being so unsecured and not guarded at all, but let's face it, humans are dumb. It's pretty possible that this was just a dramatic human error. The fact that this wasn't done because somebody was angry or unpaid or hungry, it is a possibility that this was all just a giant mistake. To me personally, though, if I could just put my own personal opinion here at the end, I do believe that this was done by an employee, and I do think that it was done because they were upset. I still believe that the original leaker, or leakers, as they're saying here in these reports, I do believe that they did this to try and get back at Naughty Dog. We'll never know their motivations, we'll never know the full story, but that's just the way it seems to me from the way I've viewed the evidence. Now, the reason is that we'll never know more is because court cases here in America are very weird. You can't talk about any ongoing litigation. So this person is probably already been arrested, or the leaker's probably in the early stages of being sued for millions of dollars by Sony. So it's very likely that we're never going to hear their name, see their face, or ever see this ever again, or else they're going to go to prison for even longer. But still, it's the end of a very, very sloppy saga. What do you think? Have you managed to see all these Last of Us leaks? What do you think about just this entire craziness whatsoever? Are you still going to buy The Last of Us, or are you now part of the new boycott Last of Us movement? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, share with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. But do me the biggest favor of all and keep dreaming. Oh God. I know I've said this in a few videos, but I am really glad I do not work at Naughty Dog. Whew, no way. Okay, so I'm editing this video right now, and something I forgot to mention is that I wanted to just kind of remind people I am going to be doing a big birthday live stream on May 9th, so next Sunday. I want to play a bunch of co-op and stuff, so if you're bored that day and you're stuck in quarantine, be sure to tune in. Hopefully we can play some co-op. Much love to you guys. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.